This episode of SESSLERS Something is brought to you by the National Campaign Against Drunk Driving. Drive sober or get pulled over. All right, SESSLERS Something Q&A edition. Why Q&A? Because I'm actually not here. I'm on vacation, and I taped this earlier, but I wanted you to remember that I still exist. Let's get to our first question, and it comes from Brian. Do you think that gamers now being able to give direct feedback to developers through sites like Twitter and Reddit could potentially cause developers to compromise their initial vision for what they think the majority wants? This is an excellent question. I mean, games, more than other types of entertainment, really have fostered this sense of community. And even without Twitter or Reddit, there would be sites for the games or for the game company, and there'd be a community manager that would be interacting with them. They'd be getting a lot of feedback. And I think it's a double-edged sword. I think because of the nature of so many games out there, in particular multiplayer games, and you need to get out there in the wild for beta testing or real-time beta testing after you launch the game, you want to hear that feedback. You want to understand how the game is being kind of pushed and pressed to its limits. Then there's the flip side, where suddenly you're beholden to this community, or you start to have that perception that those people who are engaging with you are the majority, are representative of the majority, and there's no reason to necessarily look at it this way. This is something that we experience here, and many of my colleagues, the people that give the feedback, the people that comment, you think they're indicative of the whole. No, they're just indicative of the people who gave feedback. And I think that we've sometimes seen some capitulation. The biggest one obviously being Mass Effect, and how the ending was changed, expanded, altered, however you want to see it. That's a big example, but I think there are smaller ones too, that whether or not a certain design choice or how a character looks, they do change. And I do think in many instances that is sometimes they're pulling back on the artistic vision. A lot of times when you're doing something creative, the idea is I want to be challenged. You want to see something you haven't seen before. And obviously, initially, the concept might be, hey, I'm resistant. I don't like that idea. That's the thing. You need to try it out and experiment. It is a double-edged sword, as I said before, and one that has benefits, but I think a lot of dangers as well. All right, we want to take a moment and acknowledge our sponsor, the National Campaign Against Drunk Driving. Drive sober or get pulled over. It's almost the end of 2013, which means there's a lot of parties and a lot of reasons to drink. But remember, this holiday season, cops are out on a mission to protect the streets from drunk drivers. If you're out and you get behind the wheel drunk, you will not be able to hide from the consequences. You can face jail time, court costs, the loss of your license, or much, much worse. It's fine to go out and have a good time, but just be smart about it. Designate a sober driver or take a cab or public transportation. Last year, more than 10,000 people were killed by drunk drivers, so don't be another statistic. You may think you can get away with drunk driving, but you won't. All right, our second question comes from Brandon. Hey Adam, when a game comes out that has such a definitive ending as The Last of Us, do you think a sequel to such a game is wise? Or would it detract from the wow factor of the last game by making the ending seem not so special since there's more games in the series? I love this question, especially the fact that you identified The Last of Us, because I wondered the same thing myself. I think that ending is kind of saying, you're not going to get these characters again, or at least not these characters past the point of where the game ends. And I think there is a sense of weakening it, that you want to just have that statement and move on to something else. Naughty Dog is a big enough studio with a lot of clout that I would like to think that whatever they're going to do is what they want to do. But you can see this not just with games. You can see this with movies. You can see this with television shows. Everything's built in to just get a little bit more. Games are so expensive, and there's so much risk involved that's why we're seeing so many sequels. So I tip my hat to any of the developers out there who are able to stand firm and not expand something past the point that they think makes it viable. But in the end, commerce wins.